Well, we're going now to another area where Nigeria has been spending a lot of money, and both at the federal and state level. We'll go back to Maiduguri. We talked about this earlier. The State Coordinator, Civilian Joint Task Force, Attorney General of Borno State, Kaka Shehu Lawan, as well as Jack Vince, a resident of Maiduguri. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us. So we return to you, Mr. Shehu Lawan. Please take us through what has been happening as far as the activities of the Civilian JTF is concerned. How far so far, and what are the constraints, and what are the progress reports that you can give us right now as far as security in Maiduguri is concerned?
Thank you very much. The security situation in Maiduguri as at now is very calm, and that there is tremendous improvement on security comparing to what we used to witness before. The activities of the Civilian Joint Task Force in the state is generally to assist, one, the regular security agencies in carrying out their constitutional responsibilities. Secondly, the Civilian Joint Task Force normally identify Boko Haram members that infiltrate into the various towns and villages, and in some cases arrest them and hand them over to security operatives. And in some instances, they will give intelligence report to the security agencies to carry out their constitutional responsibility by way of arresting the insurgents. Now, the Civilian Joint Task Force is more or less a voluntary organization at the onset. When they came on board in the year 2003 or thereabout, the state government, under the auspices of the State Security Council, called for an emergency meeting to invite members of the Civilian Joint Task Force to know their mission and vision. Their mission and vision was simple then. What they told the State Security Council was they are members of the public. They and the public are living in the same neighborhood. Unfortunately, members of the Joint Task Force from the Defense Headquarters are visitors. They are strangers. They do not know who an insurgent is, who is a member of the sect, and any other criminal that is taking advantage of this thing. Being sons of the soil, they now said they will contribute their quota by identifying these miscreants and with a view to handing them over to the various security operatives. That was what actually transpired. And then the State Security Council, through the Department of State Services, profiled all of them in collaboration with the Nigerian Army in the 10 sectors we have within Metropolis and environs. Thereafter, it was replicated in all the local government areas. As of today, there was a tremendous improvement on their activities, and there is a synergy between members of the Civilian Joint Task Force and the security forces. And this synergy has actually yielded fruitful results, and we have regained the peace that we used to enjoy in the previous years in Borno State.
Well, very quickly before we take on Mr. Jack Vince, just yesterday the military released 983 suspected Boko Haram members that have been cleared of complicity in terrorist activities to the Borno State government. How did this come about? And I want to believe that your task force is also aware and part of that exercise up until the time that they were released to the Borno State government. What happens now?
Well, this is not the first time suspected Boko Haram members are being released to Borno State government. This is about the 5th or 6th times in the series. What actually happened was, previously, there was what we call Joint Investigation Committee. This Joint Investigation Committee was set up by the Defense Headquarters, and it has representatives across all the security agencies, and then the Attorney General of the Federation, Attorney General of Borno State, Yobe State, and Adamawa State. Now, having after arrest of an insurgent or a Boko Haram member, he is being taken to their detention facility, the military detention facility, or after liberating a village or town, you don't identify who is an innocent person and who belongs to the sect. So they are all taken to custody. So after taking them into custody, they profile them. And this committee is saddled with the responsibility of interrogating them, of investigating who is an accomplice, who is a real Boko Haram terrorist, and who is an innocent person that was held captive. So having satisfied themselves beyond reasonable doubt, they recommend that the following people, based on the evidence available, are free. They are not in any way connected with the crimes or allegations that were alleged to have been committed by them. So that the military will now hand over these people to the Borno State government, whereas the Borno State government will in turn call local government chairmen of the affected communities where these people are being brought, the traditional rulers, and members of the Civilian Joint Task Force to have another postmortem, to have a review of what the committee did in order not to allow a sect member, a notorious sect member, to infiltrate into the town. So having done that, the military will now hand over, and then we now call their families and reunite them with the members of their families using the local government, the traditional institution, and the Civilian Joint Task Force. That was, so yesterday's event was not far from this. Even after the disbandment of the Joint Task Force, the Nigerian Army headquarters actually continued with the program and is yielding a very fruitful result.
Now, let's ask Mr. Jack Vince. Now, he has said some of their activities are yielding results. And we've heard about the activities of security agencies, Nigerian Army, the Civilian Joint Task Force. Now, this is for Mr. Jack Vince as a resident. We've also heard about activities of humanitarian organizations. But as a resident, I mean, you experience these things firsthand. So I'd like to ask, on one hand, what are the challenges you still face? I want to believe that there's still some areas you'd like there to be some form of improvement. So what are the challenges you still face at this point?
I'm really very sorry. I didn't get that question correctly, and then I can't hear you clearly. What are the challenges of what, please?
Yeah, that as a resident, I mean, seeing the work the Civilian JTF has done, the Nigerian Army, humanitarian organizations, and the rest, as a resident on the ground, what are the challenges that you still face? Because I want to believe that there's still room for improvement from where you sit.
Okay. Just like the Honorable has said, he is right. And then, as a resident, I believe strongly that the activities of the members of the Civilian Joint Task Force, as well as those of the military and non-governmental organization, has impacted positively on the lives of residents of Maiduguri. You know, we saw it all from the very beginning until today. You know, things were really not very bad in Maiduguri prior to the advent of insurgency in the place. You see, today the life of an average resident of Maiduguri is a lot better compared to what we suffered from 2009 when the sect had a clash with the authorities until the period the members of the Boko Haram held Maiduguri residents captive. Today, a lot of improvements have been experienced. Today, Maiduguri residents are better off. I think that is what I can say about that for now.
On that matter, you heard the Attorney General say, Mr. Lawan said the other time, that this is not the first time that the military would release people who were arrested as Boko Haram members, but they have been released because they have been cleared of any complicity in terrorist activities. Over the years, Mr. Vince, has there been any situation where someone who was called a terrorist, a Boko Haram member that has been released and cleared. Has there been any case where such a person has gone back into any terrorist activity that you are aware of, or any citizen that you've heard of?
Okay.
Well, I think he's having challenges hearing.
But let's ask Mr. Lawan. I want to believe he can hear us. Now, we've talked about Maiduguri, but we understand that Borno State is vast. There are other areas. And I listened to Senator Ali Ndume saying that, you know, Boko Haram terrorists still operate from areas like the Lake Chad, close to the Lake Chad region. We have the Sambisa Forest, the famous Sambisa Forest, and Mandara. So the question arises, yes, we understand the work you're doing in those areas like Maiduguri and others, but then what about those remote areas where it is hard to get access to them? What is the state of those areas right now?
Very much. Maiduguri and its environs is generally peaceful for now. As regards the hinterlands, Maiduguri is about the second largest state in Nigeria after Niger. We have 27 local government areas, and we are bordering 3 countries of Niger, Chad, and Cameroon. We are also neighbors to the waters of Lake Chad. In the Lake Chad, we have certain islands, which is locally called the Tumbus. Now, in these islands, as at today, after liberating all the major local government headquarters and villages, the insurgents, remnants of these miscreants, relocated to these islands in the shores of Lake Chad. And some of them crossed to the Mandara Mountains, which is a very difficult terrain. But I want to tell you without fear of contradiction that the military, as well as other security establishment, vigilante hunters, and the Civilian Joint Task Force across Borno State are doing their best to ensure that peace is returned to the countryside, to the local government headquarters and the villages. Right now, Banki is a border town between Nigeria and Cameroon. We were at Banki with the governor of Borno State to see the people of Banki. The military are there, combat ready in event of any eventuality. In Goza, for instance, there are a number of IDPs that were returned from Adamawa, Gombe, Biu, etc. to their ancestral fatherland. These are living peacefully in Goza. We have same number of internally displaced persons in Monguno. Monguno is just few kilometers away from Baga, where the shores of Lake Chad begins. So if you look at it, you have to give kudos to the Nigerian security forces, vigilante, Civilian Joint Task Force, hunters, and even the Borno State government for standing firm to support the activities of these people, and also by providing the basic necessities of life to its citizenry. I also want to use this medium to commend international donor agencies as well as non-governmental organizations for also bringing succor to people, to the people of Borno, as well as the neighboring states of Yobe and Adamawa. The synergy between this NGO, and the state government has actually impacted positively on the lives of the ordinary citizens of the state.
Now, Mr. Lawan, what's the progress reports about the rehabilitation of people in that environment? You know, one of the issues that's been in the news for a while is that of rehabilitation. Now, we also heard reports that there was a challenge with coordination among the various organizations that are offering succor to people. You talked about the NGOs the other time. There were issues raised about coordination, about the authenticity of some of them. So how impactful is the rehabilitation process, and how long will it take before these people who have been displaced from their homes how long will it be before they are returned to their homes so that they can continue their lives?
Well, to start with, the Kampala Convention is very clear. We cannot force them back to their villages. If they wish to stay, they are Nigerians, and the constitution is very clear. They have the right to live anywhere. As regards rehabilitation, the government of Borno State established the Ministry of Reconstruction, Rehabilitation and Resettlement with a view to rehabilitate the IDPs that suffered neglect over the years in the hands of these insurgents. As regards coordination, I agree with you that there are challenges as regards the coordination of INGO and NGOs. The Nigerian military has to blacklist some of the INGOs and NGOs. But what we now have is we have sent a bill to the State House of Assembly after due consultation and public hearing conducted on the activities of the international donor agencies, INGOs, NGOs, and even other volunteer groups that are making impact. So we have profiled them, we have gotten the list approved by Nigerian security agencies, and we have sent the bill to the State House of Assembly to coordinate. The bill has passed the second reading. Hopefully before the end of next week, we believe that bill will be passed into law and it will be assented to by the governor of Borno State. And once that is done, I think the agency saddled with the responsibility of the coordination will now partner with the security agencies to ensure that the needful is done.
I believe that,
As regards...
Oh, okay. Well, thank you very much. We're totally out of time. I would love to take you on one or two other questions, but we'll have to thank you very much. Kaka Shehu Lawan, who is the State Coordinator, Civilian Joint Task Force, and Attorney General of Borno State, as well as Jack Vince, a Maiduguri resident. Gentlemen, thank you very much for your time. We're back in a moment. Please stay with us.